Well, hello, everyone. This is Kevin Rodriguez, and we are doing kind of a double feature today, if you will. This is an episode of iCritic Live and the Entrepreneur Show. In fact, although it seems to be getting much more iCritic love now that I look at the logos and everything. So this is kind of an interesting thing for me to be doing this episode because, first of all, I did not realize you could actually live stream on two channels at the same time. And that's fun to find out. But I'm also doing this on two channels at the same time because this is a conundrum of a news story, and I've made videos about Google Stadia before, but I wasn't entirely sure which one I wanted to put this one on. To be perfectly clear, the audience I have at the Entrepreneur channel is not interested in Google Stadia at all. They absolutely are not. It's not their thing. Most of my Entrepreneur channel viewers admit they don't have hobbies. They just Uber and Lyft all day, which is why the channel died when I moved away from that. And hi, Devo. How are you doing? I'm having actually not a great day, if I'm going to be honest, but let's make a video. I got to do something, right? So I know my Entrepreneur channel audience probably does not care about Google Stadia. My iCritic audience probably does care about Stadia. That audience is more for movies, video games, and comic books. At the same time, I don't talk about media-related stuff on iCritic. I share that over at the iCritic Media, which used to be Entrepreneur Media. Now it's iCritic Media. But iCritic Media, I don't really have the ability to stream. So you can see where the conundrum was coming in. Which channel do I put it on? So I decided that, well, I did make Google Stadia videos on the Entrepreneur channel. It fits the iCritic Media channel more, but I can't live stream on there. So what I will do is maybe I will put it on iCritic, and that's when I realized that the software I have lets me stream on two channels at once. So how's that for gaming the system? So whether you are on iCritic or whether you're on Entrepreneur, welcome. And hey, if you were not aware that the other channel existed, feel free to subscribe to those channels. But let us talk about Google Stadia. Now, I have talked about Google Stadia for those who are not aware of what it is. This is what it is. And this is what I would refer to as the first console-less console. Like, it was all streamed and it was all on the internet. As you can see, I'm most recently playing Shanti. And I have quite a few games on here. I have Shantae, Ease, Chicken Police, Ease 8, Life is Strange, SpongeBob Bikini, Ira. Like, there's some really good games on here. Resident Evil Village, Kona, Doom 64. So, there's some good things. This game, Guilt, this is actually going to be the most concerning one because I actually live streamed Guilt on the Entrepreneur channel. I live streamed the whole game. It showed that I was obviously not going to be a Twitch streamer anytime soon. But yeah, Guilt was really good. There's some really good games here. And the way Stadia worked was pretty simple. You would pay $10 a month and you'd be given a certain amount of games that you could get for the service. So you see all these things that say Pro. That's because it's part of the Pro subscription. But then you'll occasionally see one like this one right here, Resident Evil Village. You'll see that it does not say Pro. That's because that is a game that I will have bought. And instead of being shipped a disc, instead of installing it or whatever, I would press the play button and it would start like immediately, or pretty close to immediately. There you go. The game's starting, loads pretty fast. It's all on cloud and it works pretty well. So press escape to show your cursor. Okay, so I'll have to do that because we're not actually going to play a game. But as you can see, it's a pretty nice little service. Now, I have an interesting history with this service because I made a couple of videos where I basically shared that I didn't think it was a great system. Yeah, boy, you can do that. How do I go back? How do I get out of here. How do I can I just so I don't know how to get out of here. Don't you love it when it's live like this? Just like press. Can I? How do I? There we go. That's how you do it. Let's exit the game. Sure. What the heck? We'll do it. Excellent. So I made some videos about this service, and I questioned the business model of it. I said I have a hard time believing that a gaming platform that is cloud-based will work in today's market. I think people like their discs. I think they like their boxes. They definitely like their controllers. And so I just was not convinced that Google Stadia was a great product. And of course, never mind the bandwidth issues. Well, I got a response video from my buddies over at Cloud Gaming X. Let me make sure I got their name right, because that would be terrible if I didn't do that correctly. And I had like a little debate with them about it, and I think we came to the conclusion that that we both kind of liked the whole idea of like, hey, cloud gaming has some perks. There are some definite immediate perks to a cloud gaming system, but we were just in disagreement over what exactly the future of cloud gaming was. Cloud Gaming Extreme, that's what their channel was called. And I predicted that it would be gone relatively quickly. It turns out I was wrong. It had much longer legs than I thought. But since that time, I also became a Google Stadia subscriber. Now, I do not play it nearly as much as my Xbox or my PS5. But that being said, I had to admit the service got a whole lot better. I like the controller. I like getting a couple games a month for $10. It was really easy to justify paying for that thing. But it turns out while the timing was a little off, I was correct in my assessment that it would not last because Google is going to be shutting down Stadia. The company will refund users who bought Stadia hardware or purchased games for the platform. So here's what the article says from the Washington Post. Google is shutting down Stadia, its cloud-based streaming service for video games, in light of low adoption rates among users. The company announced Thursday on its news portal, The Keyword. Players will be able to access their Stadia game libraries until January 18, 2023. Quote, while Stadia's approach to streaming games for consumers was built on a strong technology foundation, it hasn't gained the traction with users we expected, wrote Phil Harrison, VP and General Manager at Google working on Stadia. We've made the difficult decision to begin winding down our Stadia streaming service. Users who purchase hardware through the Google Store, as well as Stadia players who purchase games or add-on content, will be granted refunds, Harrison said. Now, that's actually kind of key, and it's a very good thing that they're doing that. Google projects that the majority of refunds will be completed by the time the service shuts down. When the service launched 3 years ago, it was critiqued for input lag issues, even as the promise of playing a AAA shooter like Destiny on a mobile device was genuinely enticing for many consumers. Our reviewer, Gene Park, described the tech as unplayable times, magical in others in a 2019 review. Later in the year, Park concluded the service had improved. Still, at the time, the product was hard to recommend to anyone but early tech adopters. The announcement represents an abrupt reversal from Google's assurances just a few months ago about Stadia's future. In July, a Stadia player on Twitter asked the company if it was intended to shutter Stadia soon. Responding from the service's official Twitter account, Google said in no uncertain terms that Stadia is not shutting down and reiterated its commitment to supporting the service with more games. Reportedly, Google was also investing an enormous amount of resources to keep Stadia competitive. The tech giant paid tens of millions of dollars per game to get high-profile titles, just as such as Dead Redemption 2 onto the platform, according to Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier. That was actually one of the first mistakes they made. They paid a lot of money for big titles, but they had been big titles that had been out for a year, like Final Fantasy 15. Like I love Final Fantasy, I love Final Fantasy 15. By the time Stadia got it, it was old. They got an Assassin's Creed game, it was old. I don't know what they were doing with that. Unfortunately, Stadia will now be interred alongside the over of 200 other canceled projects in Google's graveyard, such as its defunct social media venture Google Plus and mobile virtual reality platform Google Cardboard. Joost van Drion, a lecturer on the business of games at the New York University School of Business, said that Google was, quote, never fully committed to Stadia and referred to its shuttering as inevitable. Quote, the whole effort was doomed from its first announcement because big tech sucks at gaming, von Druman told the Washington Post. Despite having impressive infrastructure in deep pockets, the overall lack of personality in Stadia's offering was never going to get the traction necessary to justify writing the big checks you need to successfully penetrate the market. Stadia's phase expiration also comes at an ambivalent time for the future of handheld cloud gaming. On September 28th, Verizon unveiled the Razer Edge 5G, a handheld Android gaming device made in partnership with Razer and Qualcomm that can play games locally as well as stream them from a game console or directly from the cloud. A week earlier, Tencent and Logitech debuted the Logitech G Cloud, which allows players to stream games from Xbox Game Pass and NVIDIA GeForce Now. Valve's Steam Deck handheld gaming PC, which also supports cloud gaming, released earlier this year to mixed reviews. Still, the device has sold well enough that Valve announced plans in June to double its weekly shipments from 10,000 to 20,000 units. Now, I have done cloud gaming on Xbox Game Pass. I've done cloud gaming on the PS5, neither of which were smooth experiences. In fact, in that regard, Stadia was actually a much, much smoother experience. But I wonder if that was because I wasn't getting the highest quality of the game, because when I tried streaming Balan Wonderland on PS5, it was just laggy as heck and just didn't work. I just had to download the game and play it off the hardware at that point. While Stadia will soon be dead, Harrison said the technology behind it will continue to live on through Google's other projects. Quote, we see clear opportunities to apply this technology across other parts of Google like YouTube, Google Play, and our augmented reality efforts, as well as make it available to our industry partners, which aligns with where we see the future of gaming headed. We remain deeply committed to gaming, and we will continue to invest in new tools, technologies, and platforms that power the success of developers, industry partners, cloud customers, and creators. The cloud gaming market may become a lucrative venture as hosts, servers, and wireless internet connections continue to improve. But Van Druin believes that Stadia's death could be a big blow to cloud gaming's future. Quote, Stadia's demise sheds a shadow over the rest of cloud gaming of the cloud gaming category by alienating the early adopters and calling into question what rivals like Amazon and Meta can truly offer that is better or different. So that is the story. Now, what's interesting here is that they did not commit to refunding for the service itself. They did not say, hey, if you've been paying your monthly subscription, which is, again, how I'm able to get all of these games. I was a Stadia Pro subscriber for a while. Obviously, these games are going away. It doesn't appear that they are going to be refunding for the monthly subscription. And anything I bought, which was not many games, I think I bought like 3 games on Stadia, they will be refunding me. Now, that's actually a very positive thing. That is a step in the right direction, because there was some question mark about, well, what happens when this thing goes under? Because we all knew that Stadia was going to go under. But what happens when they go under? What happens to the games that you actually purchased? Are we going to get refunds? What's going to happen? And Google will be giving refunds. Excuse me, really quick, folks. But you gotta love when you set an alarm and you forget to turn the alarm off. You just gotta love that. So anyway, Anyway, one of the big concerns about when Stadia went under is what happens to those games, and they will be refunding for the purchases and for the hardware purchases if you bought it through Google Store. That is a very nice gesture in my opinion, and I think that will go a long way towards other people giving other companies a chance to try cloud gaming. But let's make something clear. They absolutely did not. And let's make this clear. They absolutely did not need to do that. They could have just not. They could have not given any refunds, and then that would have been that. So, I'm glad that Google did that. Now, that does mean that I now have until January 18th to finish Ys 9. I need to finish Kaze and the Wild Masks. I guess that was technically a remake. There's a lot of games that I was slowly playing these games. How many of these games am I actually going to be able to finish? Probably not many of them. Stadia is going to be getting quite the workout for the next few months as I try to play as many of these games as possible, because technically I paid for them. I mean, I paid for the subscription service, but I paid for the subscription service because I wanted the games. I wanted to play them. I like that they in theory wouldn't go away, but now they are going to go away. So it's a weird thing. I knew this was going to happen. And yet the thing is, even though I was totally right in my predictions, I was totally right in my assessment of the whole situation. I knew I could read the tea leaves. I knew that this wasn't going to last. And yet the product ultimately did impress me at the end of the day. Google Stadia as a console-less console worked very well in the long run, and I like it. And now I am pretty disappointed that it's going to be gone. I wish that it had actually proved me wrong. It was at that point where it was like, man, now it's ready for prime time. But there were always signs that it was in trouble. Phil Harrison, I don't even think he's in America right now. Google shut down their gaming studios that they bought, so they weren't putting their own games into the service. I don't know anyone aside from me who owned a Google Stadia controller. It just did not work. It was not adopted the way it needed to be. So I'm ultimately not surprised that this happened. I'm just not surprised. And it would be very curious to see. I would almost like to have Cloud Gaming Extreme back on the channel so we could kind of talk about the situation, how this turned out. And so, yeah, hey, if those guys, this is not like a victory lap. I actually am genuinely disappointed that this did not work out, but I also saw it coming. So, but it would be nice to have like a little bit of a chat and see where this, about our predictions and stuff like that. And, I don't know, maybe they'd like to do it. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, I guess I need to finish some Stadia games before the service goes down. And I'd like to know, what do you all think about this? Were you a Stadia subscriber? Did you ever try it out? Would love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe, and as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.